Pawn Stars boss Rick Harrison pays big money for a guitar owned by a legendary musician. Whenever Rick Harrison comes across a vintage guitar or any kind of rock memorabilia on Pawn Stars, the shrewd pawn shop owner turns into a fanboy. Whenever he comes across a guitar owned by a legend, Harrison treats it as the Holy Grail. When America's most famous pawn shop owner came across a 1961 Fender Stratocaster owned by the veteran musician Vic Flick, he didn't hesitate to shell out $55,000 for it. Soon as the guest, Vic Flick, a prominent guitarist, opened the case to show off the guitar, Harrison was taken aback. That's a big WV factor right there. My earliest memories of as a kid is watching old videos of Jimi Hendrix playing a white early 60s Stratocaster, but played he upside down. Harrison said. After acknowledging the great condition of the guitar, Harrison asked the guest about the background of the instrument. Flick shared that the guitar had been with him for years, and he had worked on many prominent records with it. I've worked on records with Nancy Sinatra and Petula Clark, Tom Jones, he shared. He further added that he was a part of the Herman's Hermits, and he worked with the Beatles for a bit as well. You might have heard of the film, A Hard Day's Night. When Ringo's walking around at the end of that film, this guitar is playing Ringo's theme, he added to amaze Harrison. Screenshots showing Vic Flick and his discography, image source, YouTube/Pawn Stars. Screenshots showing Vic Flick and his discography, image source, YouTube/Pawn Stars. Flick then pulled out a 36-page list of records that he had worked on to add to the amazement. I worked on Goldfinger James Bond. I actually played the James Bond theme, he said. At this point, Harrison was nearly sold on the idea of getting the guitar, so he asked the owner how much he was looking for. When the owner said he wanted $70,000, Harrison called in his expert, Jesse Amorose of Cowtown Guitars, to come and verify all the information. As soon as Amoroso walked in, he recognized Flick. This is the guy that Jimmy Page would look over his shoulder in the studio to figure out what he was doing. Amoroso said, revealing that Flick taught the famous English musician and film producer. I was pretty stoked when they called and told me that Vic Flick was in the shop. He is one of my heroes from the 60s and 70s. There's very few songs that he didn't play some guitar on, Amoroso said in his interview. The guitar expert further acknowledged the pristine condition of the guitar and estimated that it alone would be worth $35,000. However, given the pedigree of the guitar and its provenance, Amoro estimated that at an auction, the guitar could easily bring $60,000 to $70,000. The expert claimed that many guitar collectors would want to buy this item because of the number of songs and recordings that the guitar was used for. However, despite all the aura surrounding the guitar, Harrison wasn't willing to pay $70,000 for the guitar. He started the negotiation with a modest offer of $50,000. However, the old music legend wasn't willing to go that low, so he countered with $60,000. Harrison said he would do $55,000, and Flick accepted the deal. At the end, Flick revealed that the amount was exactly what he was looking for. I thought he was gonna go down to the 30s or something like that. I knew he'd probably go for 55, and I'm happy now I've got the money in my back pocket, he said in the end. Pawn Stars guest brings the car in which Tupac Shaker was shot in, but Rick found it too expensive. The world of collectibles has always been full of surprises, but few moments in the long-running Pawn Stars series were as jaw-dropping as the day a guest drove up with the very car in which rap legend Tupac Shaker was fatally shot. A black 1996 BMW 750i tied to one of the most infamous moments in pop culture history. rolled into the Las Vegas-based gold and silver pawn shop, instantly turning heads and raising eyebrows. The car itself had become a morbid relic, a chilling reminder of the night Tupac's life was cut short. And its presence in the pawn shop kicked off a segment that fans still talk about today. The guest, clearly aware of the historical weight of his item, wasn't shy about its background. He explained that this wasn't just a BMW. This was the BMW, the one that carried Tupac and Death Row Records founder Suge Knight on the night of September 7, 1996 in Las Vegas. Moments after leaving a Mike Tyson boxing match at the MGM Grand, the pair were stopped at a red light when a white Cadillac pulled up alongside them and opened fire. Tupac was hit 4 times, later dying of his injuries 6 days later at the age of 25. Over the years, the car had changed hands several times. After the initial police investigation concluded, the BMW was impounded and later auctioned off. It eventually made its way into private collections, undergoing restoration and receiving a new coat of paint and fresh parts. Yet despite the cosmetic work, the car's dark legacy remained intact. When the car pulled into the Pawn Stars lot, Rick Harrison, known for his mix of dry skepticism and deep knowledge of the bizarre, was immediately intrigued. He's handled everything from ancient swords to signed Beatles albums, but this was something entirely different. This is one of those things that's hard to wrap your head around, Rick commented as he walked around the car, examining its details. The vehicle was in impressive condition considering its history. The bullet holes had been repaired, the interior refurbished, and the exterior gleamed under the Nevada sun. But the aura of history clung to it. You can replace the leather, you can change the paint, the owner said, but you can't scrub away what happened in this car. That history's part of it now. The owner was seeking a staggering $1.5 million for the car, a price that reflected not just the luxury status of the BMW itself, but its infamous connection to Tupac's murder, a case that remained unsolved for decades and fueled countless conspiracy theories and documentaries. From a collector's perspective, the car was part artifact, part icon, and entirely unique. Rick, always the realist, didn't bite immediately. He acknowledged the car's significance, not just to hip-hop fans, but to American cultural history. You've got a car tied to one of the most famous unsolved crimes in the last 30 years, he said. There's no denying how big a deal that is. Still, he knew that price improvements were everything in the world of high-stakes memorabilia. Pawn Stars celebrity takes flight, shows future uncertain. Caught up with Pawn Stars founder Rick Harrison recently. He told me during a phone chat he was walking to his airplane hangar, where he has a plane. I had not known he owned either. He's now learning how to fly, again news to me. This is a 2-seat Sirius sport aircraft, fulfilling a dream of Harrison's. I always wanted to learn how to fly, but I kept putting it off and putting it off, the pawn and cable TV icon says. I figured if I build an airplane hangar and buy an airplane and get into it with a lot of money, I'll learn to fly. Harrison is engaged to Street Rose Dominican Hospital nurse Angie Polishkin, announcing on March 6 the couple's plan to marry. Harrison had introduced us backstage at Sammy Hagar's show at Theater at the Palms in October. Harrison says the plan is for a wedding in January, possibly in Cancun. Expect a beach landscape for this one. This will be Harrison's 4th marriage. He is not deterred by the institution. I like being married, says Harrison, who turned 60 on March 22. You know, it's all about being happy at life. Harrison and Austin Chumley Russell have co-hosted the Pawn After Dark podcast since February. The series is not related to Pawn Stars other than who hosts. The show was largely conceived by Tracy Whittaker, CEO of Rick Harrison Productions, and executive producer of Pawn Stars for 11 years. Rock singer Bret Michaels is the most recent guest, with Lou, the Hulk Ferrigno, the Dee and Circa co-owner Derek Stevens, and superstar DJ Steve Aoki among those who have appeared. The show originates from the recesses of Gold and Silver Pawn. The episode from earlier this month, where Rick and Chum answer fans' questions, is easily its biggest hit on YouTube, approaching 100,000 views. As the podcast builds a history, Pawn Star series on history remains latent. Harrison says the sides continue to discuss returning the show for its 22nd season. It might be another Rick and Chum show. Rick's son Corey Harrison would not be part of any Pawn Stars configuration in the near future. The younger Harrison has moved to Tulum, Mexico. He has said he's not interested in returning to Pawn Stars or to Las Vegas. As Rick put it, he's well off enough to where he really doesn't have to work. So why not? I think he wants to take a few years off. John Katsilamet's column runs daily in the section. Contact him at katsilamets@reviewjournal.com. Follow at JoniCats on X, at JoniCats1 on Instagram,